So welcome to our Mothers Out Front Massachusetts Climate Action Call. My name is Diane Sokol. I'm a member of the Brookline chapter and part of the statewide Clean Heat, Clean Air campaign. For those who are not familiar with the Mothers Out Front Climate Action Calls, in the next 45 minutes, you will learn about a specific climate issue and we will take focused action together. Today, we will reflect on last month's march to end fossil fuels in New York City, and we will follow up with continued pressure on President Biden to take action. Here's a quick preview of the agenda for our climate action call. We'll start by dividing into breakout rooms just for a few minutes so we can connect with each other. We will rejoin the main room to hear more about the march and our members' reflections. Then we'll move on to our action. We've set aside about 15 minutes of this call to take action together. We'll come back together for a few important announcements and next steps. And then we will end this meeting promptly at 12:45. We do hope you'll be able to stay until the end. So before we get going, I'll quickly go over a few Zoom norms for this meeting. Please rename yourself to include your name, your city or town, and if you like, the organization you're with. Be sure to mute yourself when we are together in the main room if you are not already muted. You can use the chat to share any comments or questions during the call. Closed captioning is available, and you should be able to access that tool at the bottom of the screen. We are trying out a new Zoom feature for closed captioning in the breakout rooms. If this does not function, you can rejoin us in the main room. And finally, we are recording this climate action call. If you do not want to be seen in the recording, just please use the Zoom controls to turn off your video. The September 17th march in New York City was one in a series of marches around the globe leading up to the UN Climate Ambition Summit. Is our climate message around the globe clear? Are world leaders noticing and taking action? Is there more that we can be doing? Deb, can you put these questions into the chat? So in our breakout, introduce yourself briefly, what city or town you're from, and your thoughts on today's questions. Make sure that everyone gets a chance to speak. When you see the 15-second countdown, use that time to wrap up your conversations, and you will automatically rejoin the main room. Enjoy your time together.
Hello, my name's Ann Goodman, organizing staff at Massachusetts Mothers Out Front, and I'm so glad to see you all. Today's program was created in collaboration with New York Mothers Out Front, and I'm so pleased to have Elisha Bacon and Nicole Carvalho here as guest speakers today, in addition to Mother Out Front, Rekha Murthy. So to begin our story, on September 17th, Mothers Out Front was part of something very big. The March to End Fossil Fuels was part of a week of action in New York City and actions around the world. An estimated 600,000 people joined more than 700 protests and marches in 60 different countries. All these actions were timed to coincide with the UN Climate Ambition Summit, a first of its kind call by the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres for global leaders to come with concrete steps to phase out fossil fuels. The march in New York was targeted at President Biden, demanding that he take bold climate action to reject new fossil fuel projects, phase out fossil fuel production, and declare a climate emergency. The organizers of the march expected about 14,000 people, and 75,000 showed up. Among them were about 150 of us from Mothers Out Front. It took a lot of work to get us all there. This is a shout out to our wonderful staff who took on all the planning and coordination with other climate groups, the City of New York, and climate leaders, and all the fantastic work and communication from David Washington, who is our Virginia organizing manager, Beth Shipp, our executive director, Bella Cockrell, our New York organizing manager, and Elisha Bacon, a New York organizer. Shout out also to our mass volunteer leaders, Susan Lees, Lee Kettleson and Andrew Rose, who mobilized us in Massachusetts. Now I'm happy to introduce our New York Capital Region organizer, Elisha Bacon, with her story of the march.
Hi, thank you for this time today. And I just want to note that I'm actually with those people that you see me in the picture right now at a New York Renews organizing retreat. So I'm going to have to hop off after I share my story, but it was truly incredible to be part of the climate march in New York City. I had the privilege of witnessing something truly transformative. And as I look around at the faces from every walk of life, every neighborhood, all converging with the shared purpose, which was to advocate for a cleaner and more sustainable future. And our diverse community was not just represented, it was celebrated, and it showcased in a vibrant strength. And so what truly warmed my heart was seeing friends from various coalitions and interests coming together. You know, despite our different backgrounds and affiliations, we united that day with a singular voice, sending a clear message to deny fossil fuels a future. Our collective passion shone brightly as we called on President Biden to make those necessary changes. And in that sea of passionate individuals, I was reminded that change is brought about not just by a few, but by the many who gather, march, and voice their concerns. Together, we weren't just attendees of a march, we were the heartbeat of a movement, and I'm very humbled and proud to have been a part of it with Mothers Out Front and all of you. So thank you for joining us that day, and I look forward to continue to organizing so that we can achieve the success that we're hoping for, which is a healthier planet for future generations. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Elisha. So glad to have you here. And hello to everybody you're with there. So getting to the march was definitely part of the fun. The quotes on these next slides are from the group WhatsApp chat that was set up for all of us attending. So some of us came from Massachusetts on buses organized by 350 Mass. Some of us came by train. We were very excited, some of the little ones even more than others. And by midday, we had all arrived in New York City. Our staff had arranged an indoor meeting point with coffee and bagels and a bathroom and a warm welcome to start our day. Then around 12:30, it was time to go down to the street and walk the 2 blocks over to our starting point for the march. Here's the Bedford, Massachusetts chapter and others posing while waiting. See how fresh and energetic they all look? While we waited for the march to get going, we reconnected with people we hadn't seen in a long time and met new friends from Mothers Out Front, Massachusetts, New York, and even Colorado. Whole families gathered. Here are 3 generations of a family. And speaking of families gathering together and marching together, here's Massachusetts member Rekha Murthy with her story.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Anne, and everyone else for inviting me to share a few observations from the day. My name is Rekha Murthy. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm in Arlington, Mass. I volunteer for our local chapter, and I post to the Facebook page as well. So follow it, please. My entire family went to the march, which is the first time we've done that. My husband and our daughters, who are 9 and 11. And this was my husband's first march. He was so impressed by how positive it was, how well organized everything was, how well cared for we were by the New York and national teams. It wasn't my first march, but I felt the same way. I had never gone before as part of an organizational community. And so for me, that was really special to be a part of Mothers Out Front and doing this. The reason we went was, I feel very, very concerned about the climate emergency. But we also try not to get our children too worried or anxious. That's not a burden that we want to transmit, but we do want them, they know it's happening, and we wanted to channel that awareness and that energy into something that was fun and adventurous, and this totally delivered. I mean, I know Anne mentioned the bus ride and the train ride. We took the bus. They even woke up at 5:30 in the morning, did not complain, and loved every part of the experience. Loved the puppets and the floats and the signs. I really just want to thank Mothers Out Front, because while we were there, just everything, the meeting point, the buses, having t-shirts. There were folks in my chapter who I went around town the day before and borrowed t-shirts from several folks. Sandwiches in a peaceful park at the end. All of that just made it so much more accessible for my family and hopefully other families in the future. And we actually were so in community with everyone that we almost forgot that we were at this massive march. I felt like we kept running into familiar faces and friendly folks. And then the kids needed a break, so we went into the Shake Shack. And that's when we watched as like all of the march kept going, and we saw all of the signs and t-shirts and floats, and just it kept going and going. And we realized that we had kind of done what we had hoped to do, which was add our little presence to this massive march. And, I think I was really excited, we all were, to get a sense of such big numbers who came. I think the only thing I hope for in the future, honestly, is that we normalize this. So every time there's something, everyone comes. But overall, it was really a great day, and we felt so honored and proud to be part of Mothers Out Front in this experience. And my kids are still talking about it and telling their friends, which is also a very good sign. So thanks, everyone. And thanks for inviting me to give a little update.
Thank you, Reka. So finally, after waiting over an hour in the sun, the motion of the march reached back to where we were, maybe half to 2/3 back in the march. There was a surge of excitement as we started to move forward. Now we were truly part of the action. And we were in amazing company. Here are the Indigenous leaders taking the lead at the march, with Black leaders, leaders of color, and frontline leaders way up ahead of us somewhere. The youth were also up front. Oh, a little technical difficulty. So here's the Indigenous leaders. Oh.
We're seeing the youth.
Yeah,
Oh, you're seeing the youth. Okay, so the youth were also up front, followed by hundreds of groups, including scientists, doctors, elders, pacifists, artists, musicians, vegans, and many more. Our Mothers Out Front t-shirts and signs looked fantastic. And the signs also acted as sun shades, so that was useful. We had many beautiful handmade signs. Some of the signs had been made by kids and adults at that art build in Arlington that Reka mentioned. The day of the march was also Rosh Hashanah. Some Massachusetts members marched with this quote based on the High Holidays liturgy. So thanks to some very intrepid parents and young people, there were lots of kids there. They were on foot. They were in arms. They were on shoulders. And they were in strollers. And many of them made it all the way to the end of the march. We ran into the Mothers Out Front co-founder Vanessa Rule. And I want to give special respect to our 91-year-old member and great-grandmother, Anne Shumway, who showed up and did part of the march. And now I'm very happy to introduce New York member Nicole Carvalho to tell her story.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Nicole Carvalho, like you mentioned. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a 35-year-old mother of two boys who you see in this picture, my older son, Maxwell, who is 5, and Mateo, who will be 3 on the 26th of this month. So shout out to him, happy birthday. And we live in the Bronx, New York. Like I'm sure many of you have been active in a lot of different progressive causes and social movements for a lot of my life. My husband and I actually met in 2011 during the Occupy Wall Street protests here in New York City, and we've been together ever since. And as people who have been involved for such a long time, something really striking for us was to be surrounded by so many children and families. We're usually the only people on the march with kids, especially young children. And to be a part of the marching group with Mothers Out Front and to feel the energy and passion that all of those parents and children shared for our future, our collective future, was really infectious. And not just young children. As we looked around to marching groups in front of us, like Bread and Puppet and some of those other art-led groups, we noticed teenagers and young adults who were really fed up with the lack of urgency from global leaders, specifically President Biden, on their inaction. And to see the leaders of the next generation, really young people who truly are going to face the horrors of climate change, standing up and fighting back and demanding an end to the use of fossil fuels, and that enough was enough, is really incredibly powerful for me to witness. It can feel kind of cynical, like we're running on a hamster wheel sometimes, but to see so many young people involved was really incredible. I've been to many actions and marches and rallies, but I left that Sunday with a renewed sense of hope, really, for our future, for my kids' future. And I'm incredibly thankful to Mothers Out Front for making this action so accessible for so many families. I hope that we continue to see children, families, and moms specifically leading the way on one of the most critical issues facing our planet and our future today. And I hope to see all of you back in New York at another rally, but hopefully saying that we've accomplished our goal and we're heading towards zero fossil fuel emissions. So thanks for having me.
Nicole, thank you so much. So by about 4 p.m., we were ready for a rest as we got to the end of the march. The whole route was 1.3 miles, but many of us agreed it felt a lot longer. At the end of the march, there was a rally at the UN Plaza. New York Rep. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez gave a very inspiring speech. She said we had to build a climate movement too big and too radical to ignore. And these words of hers moved me. We organize out of hope. We organize out of commitment. We organize out of love. We organize out of the beauty of our future. We will not give up. But we'll give the last word to one of our mass members, Chandra Das. There she is with her daughter. Thanks to the march, my kid got to meet Mothers Out Front and allies from all over the nation. She will grow up knowing that no matter how scary corporate misinformation can be, there are even more people fighting for what's right for the sake of kids. At this march, she could make her voice heard, and she did.
Thank you,
Thank
and we will move on to our actions. So this powerful march was clearly much more than just a march. It signaled a growing movement, a coming together of hundreds of organizations united behind one demand: President Biden, end fossil fuels now. And the march was organized with the intention of continuing on with this demand. So today, we as mothers and caregivers are taking our next steps. We will be keeping up pressure on President Biden by writing him a short personal letter urging him to declare a climate emergency and to end fossil fuels. We will also be signing our National Mothers Out Front petition to President Biden. Do you have paper, pen, an envelope, and a stamp? If so, you're ready to go. Let's look at the action toolkit for the details. Deb will put the link for this toolkit into the chat. It has all the info you will need to send a short letter to our president. We suggest a format for the letter. We offer some simple talking points of what to write, and we provide you with a mailing address. If you have a chance, you can snap some photos for our social media. You can take an image of your letter writing process, your materials, or maybe putting that letter to the president in your mailbox. So your letter can be short, but do speak from your heart. Mention your children or your grandchildren or any other young people in your life and the importance of preserving a livable climate for all children. We will also include instructions in this toolkit to email the Mothers Out Front team to say that you've completed today's action, because we want to count how many letters we've sent to the president. And you can attach any photos when you send that email. When you're done, please be sure to sign our national petition to President Biden if you haven't already. So Deb, can you put that link in the chat once again? We're all going to be quiet for the next few minutes so we can take these actions together, and you can always complete them after the call. If you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat. People can turn off their sound if they don't want to be disturbed by questions. If you're really struggling, don't worry, because you'll get all these instructions by email later today. So if possible, let's get finished, and we can start now and see you back here at 12:40. These calls make me hopeful about our future. It's going to take a lot of people to tip the scales in favor of real climate solutions. But every month we build our movement a little bit bigger, a little stronger. We raise our voices a little louder, and we engage others to join our actions. And a few more decision makers sit up and listen. That is the power of our movement. So later today, you will receive a follow-up email. We can go to the next slide, I guess. Perfect. You'll receive a follow-up email. It will have the link to the toolkit we shared today, a copy of these slides, and a recording of the call. We encourage you to forward that email to your networks of friends and relatives across the United States, as we can all connect with President Biden, no matter what state we live in. Share what you learned about the march from your Mothers Out Front colleagues, and ask them to join us in writing a brief letter to the president. So Mothers Out Front hosts a welcome call every month. If you've asked yourself, what more could I be doing to stop climate change? Then this might be the right event for you. We will help you identify the perfect role in our movement just for you. We want to help you find ways to use your unique talents, your skills, and your experiences to build a stronger, more effective, and more inclusive movement for change. We have one of these calls coming up on Thursday, October 12th at noontime. So join us and bring a friend also. And Deb will put that link in the chat, and you will also see it in the follow-up email. And finally, we want these climate action calls to be on your calendar every month. Deb will drop this final link into the chat. The next call will be at noontime on Tuesday, November 7th. You can register now. You won't want to miss it. So many thanks to all of you for joining today to take action together. Special thanks to our speakers from Massachusetts and from New York, our Mothers Out Front members and leaders from all over the country, and a special thanks to our awesome tech support team working behind the Zoom screen here. Watch your email for that follow-up info, and do share with others to spread our action. And we hope that we will see you again next month, November 7th at noontime.